This story comes out of the Roanoke Valley region of Virginia. There was this family from New York who had lived in the city most of their life. They wanted to get away and, live that remote urban life. So they find this beautiful home on 16 acres in this secluded area of the Roanoke Valley in the Appalachian Mountains. And their first day moving in, the father, right, he notices something weird. The neighbor actually comes not to greet them, not to welcome them to the area, but to warn them. And he says very specifically, at night, make sure you lock your doors and your windows and you close the curtains. And he says, very important, there is something out there. And he goes, you mean the people in this area are like really like that you have to lock your doors? And he goes, I'm not talking about people. It's something else. But that's all I'm going to say. Now just remember, lock your doors and your windows at night. You'll be all right. So the neighbor leaves. Well, the father kind of just shakes it off and is like, okay, whatever. So they live there for several months, and they really enjoy their new life. Well, this one particular night, the family is sitting in the living room and they have a fire going. That's when the father notices that the son is standing next to the window and he's staring at something very intently. And so he asks the son, what are you staring at? What's out there? And he goes, Father, there's a boy out there. Like, there's this young boy. Can I go and play with him? And the father's like, what are you talking about? Like, there's no boy around here. We live in the woods. Like, there's no one around here. And he's like, no, Father, there's a boy out there. There's a boy out there. And the father's like, you know what? Just, it's time for bed. Go to bed. And he doesn't really think anything of it. Over the next couple of weeks, right, the son keeps looking out the window at something and telling his father, there's this boy outside. And he keeps drawing pictures of this boy and he keeps saying, I really want to play with that boy. The father at the time just thinks, this is something to do with him moving and his active imagination. Until one night, the whole family is asleep. When the father wakes to a sound coming from the living room, he gets his wife up and he's like, I think someone's in the house. I think someone's broken in. Like, go and get the children, make sure they're safe. So he gets up, he goes down the hallway very slowly. And when he gets to the living room and he flips on the light, there's his son on the floor playing with his toys. And the front door is wide open. So he asks the son, like, what are you doing up? Why are you out of bed? And he goes, Father, I'm playing. I'm playing with the boy. And he goes, what boy? What are you talking about? And he said, the boy, he came inside and he was playing with me. And his father's like, there is no boy here. Like, there's no one around here that is your age. So he tells his son to go to bed. He goes to the front door and he, peers out. There's no one out there. He closes the door. Well, up until this point, he had been keeping this door unlocked because he felt like, we live in the woods, nothing's going to happen. But that night, he starts locking the door. Well, the next couple of weeks, right, is when they started to hear this banging sound at the front door, like someone was there. And when the father would go and answer the door, there would be no one there. And eventually, the father gets so frustrated and angry with whoever's knocking at the door that one night he hears the knocking. He goes to the front door, he opens it, and he goes out on the porch and he starts screaming, what are you doing at my house? Like, leave us alone, leave my family alone, like, quit. And all of a sudden, he hears his name being called, and it sounds like a child's voice, and it's telling him to come out into the woods. So this father, like, kind of makes his way back inside, closes the door, and locks it. And at this point, he's like, something is definitely going on. So the next day, he goes into town and he goes to the local hardware store and he talks with some of the locals. And he starts telling them, I think something's after my family. I think something is trying to like scare us. And the locals say, look, we're not trying to be rude, but you need to take your family and get out of here and move back to town if you know what's best for you. And the father takes this as, oh, they're trying to scare me out of town because I'm from the city. So he goes back home and is like, they're not going to scare us. At this point, though, the family is so terrified that they are all sleeping in the same bedroom. And after a couple nights of them sleeping in the bedroom together, the father wakes up and he sees his son standing next to the window and he's staring at something. And he's like, what are you looking at? Like, what is out there? What is out there? And he goes, they're here. They're here, Father. They're here. They're here. And he's like, who's here? And he's like, go back in the bed right now. He goes up to the window, and when he peers out, he sees all of these children standing around the house. And they have these bright, glowing white eyes. So he hurried up, he closes the curtains, and he gets in bed and he holds his son and he tells him go to sleep. The next few days, he's very nervous. He's very on edge, but he doesn't know what to do. That night, he goes to bed with the family in the bedroom. He wakes up and he discovers his family is all gone. He searches the entire home. They are nowhere. The only thing he finds is that the front door is open. So he figures they've taken his family out into the woods. So he runs as fast as he can out into the woods and he starts screaming, where's my family? Give me back my family. And all of a sudden, he hears some movement coming through the woods. And out of the shadows steps this young boy. And as this boy takes a couple steps closer, he realizes it's his son. And he has these glowing white eyes. And he looks at his father and he says, "Not yet." And the father takes off running as fast as he can back to the house. He gets in his car, he drives into town and goes to the local pub. And he starts screaming to them, like, "They've got my family, they've taken my family, like, you have to help me." And then he runs out of the bar and he leaves. And that was the last time that they ever seen this man or his family ever again.